Warhorse was released in 2011 and directed by Steven Spielberg and has a music this time by John Williams. So unlike Bridge of Spies, which was made after this time the music for this film is done by John Williams. Basically, this film is based on a book named Warhorse by Michael Morpurgo. I haven't read the book, and the book was also adapted into a stage play. I haven't read the book or seen the stage play. All I know is what I've seen in this film. Basically this film stars Jeremy Irvine. He's essentially the protagonist of the film. The film also stars Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch, Peter Mullan, Emily Watson, and many other people. Honestly, this film is a huge cast, lots of famous British actors in there. This film tells the story of a horse named Joey, if you hadn't guessed already, hence the name of the film, Warhorse. But anyway, basically at the start of the film, this horse is brought by this dad who owns his farm, played by Peter Mullan. He buys this horse at an auction. He takes the horse to look after at his farm. Emily Watson, who plays his wife, is very against it. So Jeremy Irvine, who plays, I think it's Albert in the film, who's this young kid who is the son to Peter Mullan's character, Emily Watson's character. He is the son who also works on the farm. He has to look after the horse as best as he can. Basically, he does really look after his horse. They form a strong bond. Jeremy Irvine's character, Albert, and Joey the horse form a very strong bond in the first act of the film. But as the film progresses, this horse, Joey, is taken off the war. And he is used as a war horse, you know, ha ha ha. He's used as a horse in the British Army, but then he's actually taken to the German Army. He actually helps to German soldiers who are trying to desert the army. They use the horse to try and get away from fighting with the German Army. And then the horse ends up with a young girl and her granddad who look after the horse at a German farm this time. And then the horse gets taken again by German soldiers, and they use the horse to try, you know, move big German artillery. And then basically the horse gets stuck in the trenches, and then he goes over no man's land, and he ends up back on the British side of the war. He ends up back with the British soldiers, and then basically, not to give anything away in case you haven't seen the film that you might have guessed already, the horse does find its way back home in some sort of way. And that's basically the plot of the film. There's a couple of things that I haven't talked about. For example, there's a whole scene where the horse is stuck in the barbed wire in no man's land, and basically a German soldier and a British soldier, you know, they both help try and get the horse out of this barbed wire. And there's other stuff that happens in the film, but that's basically the plot of the film. You just follow this one horse, I think it's called Joey, through the war. You know, before the war, through the war, and after the war. And Jeremy Irvine's character, I think he's Albert in the film. I can't remember his character that well. We follow his character the most in the film. He's essentially the character we see the most. All the other characters keep coming in and out. That we are aligned with other characters. For example, Tom Hiddleston's character and Benedict Cumberbatch's character, and this whole story to do with this granddad and his granddaughter. That on the German farm, that becomes, you know, quite important at one stage. But for the most part, the character that we revolve around the most is Jeremy Irvine's character, Albert. This may surprise quite a few people, but I'm not a huge fan of this film. Yesterday, when I finished watching this film last night, I went online. I always do this after I finish watching this Spielberg film. I like hearing what people think of it. I went online and I researched what people think of this film. I watched a few, you know, film reviews online, and people really did like this film when it came out in 2011. It was magnificent, one of Spielberg's best films up to that point. It blew people away. People loved this film. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. If I was going to rate the film through the filmmaking, through the music, through the cinematography, this film would easily be an 8.5 out of 10. Honestly, the cinematography, the filmmaking, and the music by John Williams is roaring in this film. It's absolutely incredible filmmaking, in my opinion. Spielberg did an absolutely perfect job. You can tell he has a lot of faith in the story. I don't know how he did some of those scenes with the horse. I really don't. There's one scene in particular, which if you've seen the film, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about, where this horse is, you know, running over no man's land, and then actually falls into one of the trench, and then it gets back up in the trench, and it's all done in one shot. Quite a lot of that, you know, it does cut every now and then, but quite some of the hard parts of the film in that scene are all done in one shot, like just one take. Honestly, it's fantastically made. The filmmaking in this film is fantastic, and the cinematography of the film is fantastic, and it has a roaring John Williams score. It really does. Honestly, the score for this film is absolutely fantastic. It's triumphant when it needs to be, and it's sad when it also needs to be, and it works really well. So if I was rating the film and the filmmaking, it would easily be an 8.5 out of 10. It's not amazing filmmaking. There are some continuity errors, which we're going to talk about shortly in this video, but ultimately, when I'm rating a film, when I'm talking about a film, I'm talking about the story of the film as well as the filmmaking. And whether it's just that I have a problem with the book, I don't know because I haven't read the book, or whether it's just that I had a problem with the screenplay written by Richard Curtis. Richard Curtis, by the way, who's written a lot of famous rom-coms like Love Actually and Four Weddings and Funerals, so on and so on and so on. Whether it's if I have a problem with the screenplay or the story or the book itself, I don't know. But unfortunately, it's just not realistic. And the biggest problem with this film is the fact that some parts of the film are aimed at a family audience. A family can go and watch the film and have a good time with it. But there's also a large part of the film, I think, that is aimed at an adult audience. And I think if young children watch that part of the film that's aimed at our audience, maybe they might understand it, but they wouldn't necessarily get significance of it. I don't really know what audience this film is aiming itself at, because there's a whole trenches scene and the whole no man's land stuff. You're only really going to understand the significance of that if you're an adult, really, aren't you? If you're over a certain age group. But the thing is, I think the first act of the film, all this stuff going on with this farm in Dartmoor, I think is aimed more at a family audience, and just, it doesn't work. I don't know what audience this film is going at, and that's to say anything about the filmmaking of the film. That's to say about the story. He goes from really quite a light-hearted story to his farm and his family, to the war, and then to this really, really dark part in the war, and it just... I don't really know what audience this film is aiming at, I must admit. There's a lot of dialogue in the film that just, it wouldn't be said in a war situation as well. But there's a whole scene in the trenches where we follow Jeremy Irvine's character along the no man's land now at this point. They're all going to get shot down. One of his friends falls down and he's just like, "Come on, we can do this. We're Devon boys." And it's just a bit like, would you really say that in the middle of that situation though? Because take a look at Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg's war film, in my opinion, one of Spielberg's best films that he made many years before this. And I know Saving Private Ryan isn't based on anything, at least as I know it's not based on anything. Take a look at that film. That is another war film. Yes, it's based on American soldiers, but it does show those horrors of the war like War Horse does. The thing is, in Saving Private Ryan, there's a lot of swearing. And also, by the way, in Saving Private Ryan, the German soldiers speak German to each other. That never happens in this film. But half an hour to 45 minutes of this film is based around German soldiers. This whole storyline where these two German soldiers are trying to get away from fighting the war. And the thing is, they both speak English to each other. They have German accents, but all these moments to do with the German soldiers, they just speak English to each other. And things like that, which kind of annoy me, like no one in the German army. And like I said, about half an hour to 45 minutes of the film takes place in the German army. Like, they don't speak German. It's just a bit like... I get that's based on a book, but still, if you wanted to make it more realistic, I didn't feel that realism now. I even said at one stage, like, why are they not speaking German to each other? It just annoying me. Honestly, the start of this film, it's hard to believe this horse can go through all of this. And maybe if you like horses, you'll enjoy this film a lot more than I did. But I don't like horses. That might be one factor why I don't like this film. But the thing is, this horse goes from there to there to there to there to there. And it's just kind of hard to believe that it doesn't get shot. There's even one stage in the film where another horse gets shot when they're doing something. And that horse didn't. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But there's one scene in the third act of the film, Joey the horse, you know, it's after the war's ended. The war's ended now. The war has literally just ended. And this horse is getting taken off to be auctioned. All these soldiers who managed to survive World War I have all chipped in for Albert, Jeremy Irvine's character, to help buy the horse back at these auctions. So they've all these soldiers who just finished fighting in the war have all chipped in £29, which by the way was not cheap back then. They all chipped in £29 to buy this horse, to help Albert buy this horse back so he can take it back as his own. First of all, that wouldn't happen. These soldiers have just finished fighting in the war. Why are they chipping in their own money to go and help some guy save his horse? It's not realistic. It just... Things like that annoy me. The thing is, with the other acts of the film, it just became messy. Now, I'm trying not to give anything away in case, you know, people haven't seen the film. But then one thing happened, then another thing happened, then like another thing happened which came out of nowhere. It's all to do with the auction. I was just kind of like, what? This one became so messy. There are some good scenes in the film. Like I said, that whole scene where the horse is running over no man's land and over the trenches and falls in one of the trenches and actually get up, and that's all in one take, and that's absolutely fantastic. The scene where the horse is dragging the artillery up this huge hill in the German line, but the story just bothered me, and up to the point that I couldn't get over it. The dialogue isn't that well written. This is a war film, and to make it more realistic, they just needed to add a bit more realism in that and actually write some convincing dialogue and actually write an interesting story that would probably be more realistic than it is. Jeremy Irvine, I haven't really seen him in anything after this, and to be honest, he's probably only hired for this film because he looks attractive. But the thing is, his performance in the film, it seems a bit too over the top. He isn't that great in the film, I must admit. He didn't convince me he was a soldier in war at one stage. I know earlier on in the film, in the first act of the film, he was trying to train the Joey horse. He would fall over into the mud at one stage, and then when we get up from the mud in the next shot, his face won't be covered in mud at all, and his hair will be completely fine. Like, I didn't believe in the first act of the film that he was working on this farm. Even when he got into the trenches, I still didn't believe he was actually in the trenches in no man's life fighting this war. I just didn't believe that. His performance wasn't that good in the film. I'm not saying he's awful, it's just not that great in the film. But I do like most of the other performances in the film. I think that Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch, and they want some Peter Mullan, and loads of other famous people in the film are absolutely fantastic. He's not, and he's kind of the main character. And by the way, just one last little sidetrack here. Spielberg is a huge fan of sunset shots. I've been watching quite a lot of these films recently, and in almost all of the films you get a shot which is like a sunrise or sunset, and this film, the last 3 minutes of the film are just one big sunset shot, literally. I just thought, yeah, that's Spielberg. That's Spielberg wanting to go, let's get the sunset shot in there, come on. But yeah, ultimately, I think War Horse is an awful film. I'm not saying it's the worst film ever made. Honestly, it's better than most films made nowadays. It's just a story that bothers me the most. Or maybe it's because I have a problem with the book, whether it's because I have a problem with the screenplay, whether it's because I have a problem with, you know, the lead performance, the central lead performance in the film. Other films just focus on other characters, the central lead performance in the film. Whether I have problems with that, I don't know. But the fact is, War Horse did not work for me. And for that reason, I'm going to give this film a 6.8 out of 10. I don't think this is an awful film. It has a roaring John Williams score, the filmmaking is brilliant, the cinematography is honestly fantastic to look at. I can imagine watching this in the cinema and thinking, wow, this looks amazing. But the fact is, just because it looks great doesn't mean the story's great. You can get swept up in the John Williams music, or you can get swept up in the amazing filmmaking, but the fact is, the story just wasn't there for me. And I actually think it's leaning more to some of Spielberg's worst films. And ultimately, I think it's more of a children's story, but Spielberg wanted to make this into a film that aimed more an adult audience, in my opinion. And so for that reason, I'm going to say that War Horse, it's a 6.8 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what did you think of War Horse? Do you love it, do you hate it? Or have you just not watched it? And if not, why not? Please do comment below and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And just say this is going to be the last time I say this, just to say that I'm still watching and reviewing a handful of Spielberg films right now. So for my next Spielberg film review, which will be his most recent film, Ready Player One, coming very soon on this channel. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on this video, and look forward to many more, both film and TV reviews, and one more Spielberg film review coming very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye!